Okay. Hello and welcome to the Ask Your Coach group. I'm sorry we're a bit late today, but to be honest to you, it's my fault. Not going to lie to you. We're having different time zone changes, and so on. But so that we can start really like now, and I'm having a Jeff Heggie here. I'm going to put him on the screen for you, and he's going to talk about success. Okay. So Jeff, I will put you on a screen right now and please go ahead.
Thank you, Yana. I think we do pretty good. The fact that you're in the Czech Republic and I'm in Arizona and we don't have this issue very often, so I think we're okay. But thank you. I want to spend some time talking about success. And if you've got any comments or questions, please add them and Yana can let me know what those are and we can talk about those. But, as we talk about success, where I want to start is what Stephen Covey used to say a lot was you need to begin with the end in mind, because I think a lot of people, well, everyone is striving for success. A lot of people are looking for the success they want in their life, but they don't define what that is. They don't have a definition of what their success is, and they don't know where they're heading. And so that's one of the most important things we need to do. And as I work through my courses and with my clients and stuff, that's the first thing we want to try to do is help them define what success is to them and help them get that figured out so they know where they're going. And so if we have a clear vision of what success is for us, it's a lot easier to figure out what we're going to start doing to try to achieve success. Now, also when we do that, if you were on when I spoke on here previously about our self-talk, it's the same thing. When you go buy a article of clothing or buy a new car or something, and all of a sudden you start seeing that car or that clothing all over the place, it's not that they're new and they weren't there before. It's just that you're starting to recognize them. And that's what that's from, is your RAS, your reticular activating system in your brain, which is a filter that helps you to recognize things that are important to you. So when you identify what success is to you and you know what that is and you're clear about that, your RAS is going to help you to identify the things that you need to do to find that success. And once we have that determined, what we know success is going to be, we've got to have that clear vision of what it is and how we go about it. And then we've got to start taking action to not just expect it to happen for us, but what are the things that we need to do to be successful, to achieve the things that we want to achieve. But what'll happen a lot, people know what they need to do, but they seldom do it because of mostly fear. Fear is holding them back. Fear of failure, fear of whatever it is. There's all sorts of fear, but it's the lack of confidence and not having the courage to go forth with it. And so, you look at, one thing I talk about a lot is you look at fear and faith. They're both something in the future, and fear is something we give a lot of power to, but it hasn't happened yet. And oftentimes you think of the things that you've been fearful of, they don't happen. Oftentimes we're fearful of things that never do come about. And so we need to be able to overcome that fear and take massive action so that we can get closer and closer towards our goals and find that success. Now, what happens when we fail? Because it happens a lot. What happens when we overcome our fear and we take action, but then it doesn't work out? I actually liked a friend of mine, Eric Chang, spoke at a TEDx at the University of Lethbridge recently, and he talked about not using the words anymore, never give up. And instead, he uses the words, try something new. Well, if you're trying to do something, you're trying to achieve a goal, you're going after your success, and something doesn't work, keep pounding against that same wall probably isn't going to get you the results either. And so that's when you need to take a look at what happened, what didn't work, and try something new. And so I really liked how, and you can find that talk on YouTube of Eric Chang's, but it was really good. But we've got to keep doing it. And I like Tony Robbins says it a lot. is, you look at a child that's trying to walk and they fail. How many times do we allow them to fail before we just tell them, well, let's face it, you're not going to be a walker? No, you're going to let them keep going. You're going to let them continue to try to walk until they figure it out. That's why most people can walk. And so that's how we've got to look at our goals and our path to success, is as we try and we fail and we overcome those fears and we fail again, whatever it is, try something else and keep going and have that persistence and consistency to keep going until you can get there. And another thing that I think is really important as we're looking at success is to actually pause and reflect, because I think what happens a lot is we do things, we set goals for ourselves, we figure out what our success is, and then as time moves forward, we do it again and we continue to set new goals. And what we don't realize or what we don't celebrate is the successes that we have had. You look back a year ago, what were the goals that you had? And you're probably living a lot of those goals right now. You probably achieved that and you found that success, but you didn't take the time to celebrate it because you set new goals and you're aiming for something else. But we need to recognize the things that we do achieve and let that help us build the momentum and help us get to our next goals. But don't neglect that. Take pride in the things that you have achieved and the things that you have done so far. Jana, is there anything that's popped up question-wise or anything yet, or did you have anything you wanted to add or questions you had?
No, I was just thinking that it's, a lot of people are talking about the gratitude journal, which is basically that you're like remembering the things. But I think it would be also great to have a special journal for now, like if you achieve something right now, you're happy about something right now, just write it down, like, so that you don't have to always like remember, like always remember things, but write it, like do that right now, do that right now. I think it would be good, to have a special one just for that, just to reach out and just say, okay, I'm happy with that, let's write it down. Because I think
absolutely, because you
yeah.
forget those things, you forget them, and if you recognize them right away, I think there's benefit to that.
And not only that, see, when I'm coaching my clients, I'm telling them about the joy journal, which is very similar, but it's not about the big things, it's about small things. So what I'm letting them to do is like for the whole week, every day, to write down everything which brings them even smallest amount of joy. And why I'm doing that is to find a pattern, because if they find a pattern, like what's in common, like what is always there, what's there, they can see what their passion is, or they can see what they should do more often, they can see the time they should spend on that activity instead of on something else. And I think that's what's also leading to success, because if you're doing something what you like to do, what brings you joy, then I think personally it's you're more likely to succeed in that.
I agree, and I mean I was actually working with someone yesterday, and we were talking about that it's, for a lot of people, it's so much easier for them to identify and vocalize the things that they don't want, and it's harder for them to look at the things they do want. And so if you're looking at a joy journal or a gratitude journal, it's easier to identify those things that you do want in your life. I use the example with them. When I still lived in Canada, I took a group of young men and young women down to Montana to go whitewater rafting. And the day we were going to do it, it had rained and there was some huge rapids and stuff. And some of the people didn't want to do it. And this is actually, I was listening to Dean Graziosi, and he told a story similar to it, and it reminded me of this. But the guide was telling us, we're all right, because what we focus on, where we're going to go, is where it's going to take us. If I'm focusing and saying, watch out for that rock or watch out for that tree, we'll surely end up hitting that rock or tree. But if you focus on where I'm telling you to go, then we're going to get around those things. It was the same thing a couple nights ago. I took my wife out on a ride on our motorbike, and I was pulling up to a light, and I kind of swerved off to the left, and she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, actually, I was looking at something." And she's like, "Well, just because you're looking at it, you don't have to go that way, but it is. It's what you focus on is the direction you go. And on a motorbike, that doesn't work out so good. It's so, but so we've got to identify the things that we want rather than things we don't want. Because when we focus on the things that we don't want, that's what we're going to attract ourselves to. And so with a gratitude journal or a joy journal, if you can identify those things and those patterns like you were talking about, and the things that we want in our life, we'll get closer and closer to them more often.
True. And also it's coming also to the role models, or to the, like when you're talking, I was also like rafting on the white water rafting, or whatever, how it's called, like on those icebergs. It's dangerous, it's fast, and so on. And I was absolutely beginner, and I remember that I even didn't look anywhere. I was just listening to the guy, because he was just telling us, just listen to me. Like when I tell you right, you go right. When I tell you left, you go left. Don't look at the crosses or the death sign. Don't look at them. And I will tell you what to do. And it worked perfectly. And I'm just thinking, sometimes you also need, like, or you need it all the times, but sometimes people are not aware that they also need a great role model. And they also need this, like it's discussed a lot, like you need to have those 5 people around you, and those 5 people are going to, like change how you think and so on. It's true, but I think that sometimes even one is good, just start with one, because if the role model is strong enough, as for example Tony Robbins is, or some, it can, for somebody it can be a grandpa or whoever, if the role model is strong enough and you trust him, then it's a good beginning. It can't be sustainable for a whole life, but it's a good start, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. I think role models, mentors, and coaches, I think that's very important because I agree. You're going to be, it was Jim Rohn that said it, you'll become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I've talked to my children a lot about that. It does matter who your friends are, because that's who you're going to become like. Because, they can say, well, I've got these 5 friends that maybe they're not doing great things, but I'll change them. No, it's when you've got 5-on-1, that one is most likely the one that's going to change. And that goes for kids, adults, whatever. It comes from your physical health, your how you eat, do you read books, all those different things really depends on the people you spend the most time with. And so yeah, when you can find a really good role model and a mentor to help you to get in the direction, going back to the very first part, begin with the end in mind. When you know where you want to go, you can put the role models in place that are going to help you get there. And I heard someone, I don't know who it was, someone was talking yesterday, and they were talking about successful people. What do people do when they find real success? And one of the things they usually do is try to share that success. They try to teach others how they've done it. It's not they don't try to hide it and keep it a secret. They try to help others do the same thing. And so you can find people that are going to help you do those things.
True. And also I think that you shouldn't like underestimate the trust factor. Like sometimes you can find a really good people, but I mean from the knowledge point of view, but if you don't trust them, it's not going to work. And I was thinking about the story you once shared about your wife, and about how you fell down and she basically came to you and she told you, I don't want to re-say that. I'm just thinking that sometimes it doesn't have to be a coach. It doesn't have to be like a person with it doesn't have to be someone like professional, but I think that the trust factor is what's making the change. If you trust that person, and that person can see your problem or your vision from another angle, it's working pretty well. And I think unfortunately it's working also for the failure part. Like if you trust the wrong people, then they can ruin your success. I mean, if you're not strong enough, and if you don't see it for yourself, and you trust somebody, and that somebody is telling you, look, you don't have a chance, then I mean, it's also like, I think that the trust factor is important here.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, that goes, you can go so deep into that. Stephen M. R. Covey wrote a book called The Speed of Trust, and yeah, it's trust goes into every aspect of relationships and businesses and everything. So yeah, I agree with you on that 100%.
And when you think about some, you know, like everybody is having some, well, some people don't like to call it failures, but you know, like if you're going after some success, sometimes it happens that the first solution is not the right solution. Okay, let's call it like that. So what do you think is the critical factor for you? Like, what is it like? What's taking you out of that, you know, like mud? What's taking you out of that, and what's showing you the right way? Because sometimes we've got a strong vision and everything, and we put everything in that vision, you know, all our energy, all our resources, and then we fail. So what should we do?
Hmm. You know, that's a good point, because you know, you can say it as much as you want. You know, failure is part of success, and it's expected, and fail fast, all those different cliche quotes and stuff. But failure still sucks. You know, no one wants to fail, and it causes stress and anxiety and things like that. But you've got to, another, I'm going to quote Tony Robbins again, is when you can kind of change your frame of reference and realize and look at things that life is happening for you rather than to you, then it's a little easier for you to look at the situation and take it as a lesson. And then, like I said with Eric Chang's talk, is try something new, because it doesn't mean you have to give up on that dream or that goal that you're trying to achieve. What it means is you've got to take a step back, look at what was happening, and try something new. And I mean, it's not going to get rid of the stress and fear of failure and those things that come with it. But what you've got to be able to do is use your self-talk, use whatever it is, to understand that that's part of success. And as long as you're doing everything in your power to bring it all together, it still can happen. You can still have those failures, but just reassess it, look at it as, because I think we can all look at failures we've had that were so terrible, but they were actually quite a learning experience that made the outcome a lot better. But in the moment, it's hard to deal with that often.
Yeah, could I add to that? I just wanted to add the fact that although yes, you need to try something new, and like Jeff just said, you have to focus on your goal. Just like we have Thomas Edison, knowing that someone is going to try 1,000 times. These people are for real. KFC Sanders, the guy, how many doors did he have to knock on? Disney, 306 attempts of getting a bank loan, and you know, all those are examples to tell us to continuously focus on our goal. And I think I had an example. We have a doctor friend who attempted exams 3 times. I mean 6 times, sorry, 6 attempts of doing his exams, and he's now a medical doctor. So whoever saw him the first time, the second time, he was a failure all along. But most of the people don't know those attempts. Most of the people don't know those attempts. They are glorifying him, but some of the people who know him know that he went 6 times. He attempted 6 times, and now he's a successful medical doctor.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing too, is some people really feel like they've kept trying, they kept doing it, and it's just not working. And that might be the case, and you just need to stay persistent. But it's like when my kids lose something. I've looked everywhere. Have you looked in your room? Yeah, I've looked everywhere. It's nowhere. I can't find it. I'm like, well, you haven't looked everywhere because you haven't found it yet. So, you know, that's the same thing. You've got to keep going until you find the right solution.
Exactly.
There is one more point which I want to try on you, okay. Now when I ask you, Jeff, like what at this moment, what are you most grateful for? Okay, tell me three things. What are you most grateful for?
Um, well, completely off topic. I'm most grateful for moving to Arizona because I know it snowed back home in Alberta. But um, no, more seriously, and you know what? You brought up that story that I had told you about my wife, and that's actually it's a chapter in a book that I was a part of, and you can get it for free on my website at jeffheggie.com at the bottom of the homepage. But I'm grateful, number one, for my wife because I've taken her and my family through a lot of different ups and downs through my entrepreneurial experience, and she's not only encouraged me, she's helped me a lot. And like that experience that I told you about, that was I was going through some things that I coach my clients not to do, and I was doing them, and she was kind of the one that slapped me the side of the head and smartened me up. And so, number one, I would say probably that, and not just that, but my entire family. You know, my kids, the support they give me, and those sort of things too. Um, I'm grateful for the opportunities that have come to me. You know, even through COVID, I've had a lot of great opportunities that have allowed me to expand what I'm doing with my coaching, and seeing some of my clients that during some tough times with COVID have done some amazing things. And then, probably the other thing is, like this, the networking that's happened. And I think a lot of it has expanded because of the whole situation with the pandemic. And you might know this, Yana, but in this group that we started with, how many different countries are involved? Because, Yana and I are in meetings quite often with each other. I'm in the US, she's in the Czech Republic. And then even things like I've got people in Pakistan that I'm regularly dealing with. I was on a podcast over there. I was on a podcast in India. Yesterday I was on a podcast in Holland. I mean, it's really a small world, and it's been a great opportunity to meet people and just expand that network. Zoom calls are amazing.
Look, why it's great. It's all great. Why did I ask? It was intentional question because I think that people are so much focused on the business success. But when you ask whoever you ask, like, what are you grateful for, which means basically they are remembering the biggest success in their lives, usually the relationships come up, right? Or usually the family comes up, the partners come up. And why did I ask you this in the success session is because I'm going to post later on the classical wheel of life, the coaching tool which everybody is using, but I'm going to post it for our members just to remind them there are so many aspects of your life that you can be proud of, that you've achieved a lot, that even though maybe sometimes the business is, how to say that, is like not that successful. Okay, you're talking about success, but maybe some other areas are really good in your life. And I think it's important to know that from several reasons. One of them is because, of course, if you were successful in that part, you can be successful in anything. It's the same force that took you there. It's the same power. It's the same kind of energy that you employed, but maybe it was more important for you. Maybe you were focused on that more, but if you remember that kind of energy that brought you towards your partner, maybe, or that you used to raise your kids, or that you used to make your house beautiful, and you will use the same kind of energy, and you will focus them, you will like target them on your business goals, you will get there. And it's also a reminder that it takes time. It takes time to build a relationship. It takes time to raise kids. It takes time to make your apartment or a house nice. So that's why I brought it here. I think it's important because people are so much focused on business But when you ask them what they're grateful for, it's usually not the business. Even those people who are successful as you are, Jeff, I mean, even those people usually don't put it on the number one, you know. So that's why I said that.
You know, that's a great point, Jana, and that's why the other thing that I work on with my clients is when they figure out what their goals are and all those things, we really work on their why. Why do they want to achieve that? And that's also why in our Facebook group here, when I posted on this topic yesterday, the picture that I put was me with my family, because as important as business and everything is to me, everything I do is for them. It ties back to them, because, you know, having a successful business and failure as a father and husband and those things, I don't look at that as success. I think it all ties in together, that for me, my why ties all back to my family.
Okay, so give us just one more thing you want to say, because we're having like 2-3 minutes of our prolonged time, because I started late. So give us just one more tip, you know, like what would you say to everyone like who's going to watch us or who is watching now, like what should they really like do? Like what would you just tell them, like maybe 3 things they should do if they really want to succeed in whatever area of their life? Is there some kind of framework you're using?
Yeah, I'll start back with what I started with is, you know, beginning with the end in mind. Know what you want, know where you want to go, and, you know, future pacing is a great way to do that. You know, put yourself a year into the future and tell yourself it's been the best year of your life, and then look back and say what had to have happened to make it the best year of your life, and there's your goals. And then you've got to figure out the things that you need to do to start heading towards those goals. And then I think a lot of it comes down to dedication and consistency, because, you know, in Jeff Olson, the author, one of the things he talks about with success habits is they're easy to do and they're easy not to do. So I think it's important to get in the habit of doing these little things that really can make a difference, because as easy as they are to do, it's just as easy not to do them. But when we work on when we're dedicated to something and we're consistent with it, we're gonna find the results. And then, you know, if it's not working, take a look at it, learn from it, and go again. Because if we're taking massive action but we're doing the wrong action, it's not going to get us where we want to go. Something that I recorded in one of my courses yesterday, I talked about when I was young. It was a 4-H beef club, and one of the things that we did every year was clean the ditches on the highway. And we had this one assignment, and we went and did it, and it was so messy, but we did an immaculate job. And then we got back and we thought we were done, and we found out we did the wrong area. So we took massive action. We did a great job, but the reality is we hadn't even started our project yet. So you've got to make sure you're doing the right things to get to the goal line, because if you're just taking action but not the proper action, you're not going to get there.
Look, it was a great example. You know, my husband did something similar at the university. It happened to him 2 or 3 times that he went for an exam that was not his exam. So he learned something different. Oh, it's my husband. Okay. So yeah, you're right. Then the result is not what you expect. Okay. Look, Jeff, thank you for being with us today. I'm going to finish this great session about success. I just want to encourage everybody who's going to watch this, ask us whatever, and post your questions or put them in the comment underneath this video. And we will see you next week. Bye,
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.